Hello, and thank you for viewing this video, in which I will be talking about the fast attack choices from the Ork's 7th Edition Codex as part 4 of my series of reviews. My name is Steve, this is the SDFnet 40k channel, and let us begin. We begin with the Ork Truck. Ork trucks speed into battle at a breakneck pace, mobs of boys crammed into the rear compartments or hanging recklessly from their hulls. As they close with the foe, the truck's gunners blaze away wildly. As the enemy looms large, the driver puts his foot down, squeezing an extra spurt of acceleration from his ride. With a roar like a predatory beast, the truck plows into the enemy's midst, before the boys on board pile out and get stuck in. Boys who spend a lot of time fighting, and in some cases living out of the same truck, will soon take time personalising their ride, with clannish paint jobs, grisly trophies, kill markings, and all manner of dangerous tat. It has been known for entire warbands of evil sons or freebooters to form into truck mobs, riding into battle in a ragged column amid vast clouds of exhaust smoke and dust. The staple Ork dedicated transport is a truck, which for 30 points gets you a fast, open-topped vehicle with a transport capacity of 12 and the following profile: ballistic skill 2, front, side and rear armor of 10 and 3 hull points. Trucks come armed with a single big shooter, which is 36-inch range, strength 5, AP 5, assault 3, which can be replaced by a rocket launcher for free. It can also take items from the vehicle equipment list that I covered in part 1 of this review series. A truck has a ramshackle rule, which means each time they suffer a penetrating hit, roll a d6. On a roll of a 6, that hit is reduced to a glance. An Eldar Serpent Shield, this rule is not. So what is there to say about a truck? It really has one purpose: get boys as far across the table as it can before blowing up. Given the general quality control on most Ork tech, it's debatable if that explosion will happen because of incoming ordnance or simply the driver had the ill-conceived idea to attempt steering. When I take trucks, they tend to be bare bones. I don't bother upgrading them, as investing points into something that dies to a mild breeze is a waste in my opinion. If a truck makes it across the board and the boys inside disgorge for hugs and fun time, the role of the truck is then to become as much of a menace as possible by doing all it can to block line of sight for my enemy, or if the mood takes me, I'm not against the idea of ploughing at full speed into a squad of enemy infantry, or even the squishier bits of another tank. I criticised some of the vehicle upgrades earlier in this series for giving bonuses to ramming, but that's because it never happens. Trucks tend to get popped too quickly, and this forces me to foot slog across the board, so I never really get a chance to ram stuff. The advantage of becoming a nuisance to my opponent after the truck has served its purpose is when it gets killed, which it will, unless they blow it up, it remains an obstacle on the battlefield. If it gets killed in front of some marine devastators, for example, watch and rejoice as they have to burn a turn of shooting whilst they reposition for a clearer shot. Now let's talk about Storm Boys. Young and rebellious, Storm Boys strive to stand out amongst the anarchy of Ork society. They studiously ape authority figures, practicing things until they can do them right, and openly polish their boots in public places, much to the disgust of their elders. Yet, no matter how much they fly in the face of greenskin values, with their willful forward planning and blatant regard for the rules, Storm Boys are still Orks. They live to get stuck into a good, bloody fight as quickly as they can. To this end, Storm Boy Corps strike deals with local mechs to equip them with large, noisy rocket packs. They use these to propel themselves towards the foe amid a resounding and suspiciously well synchronized bellow of Waaagh, striking the enemy lines like ballistic missiles and hacking apart anything unlucky enough to find itself in arm's reach. For 45 points, you can get yourself a squad of 5 Storm Boys, one of which may be upgraded to a boss knob for 10 points, granting the character type for when it matters. If you've been following my series in order, you'll be well used to this routine now. Anyway, for your points, you get the standard Ork profile of a Storm Boy being weapon skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 3, Toughness 4, 1 Wound, 2 Initiative, 2 Attacks, Leadership 7 and a 6 up save, with the boss knob being Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 3, Toughness 4, 2 Wounds, 2 Initiative, 2 Attacks, Leadership 7 and a 6 up save again. Your squad comes equipped with sluggers, choppers and stick bombs, as well as rocket packs, turning them into jump infantry, and the normal 3 rules of Here We Go, Furious Charge and Mob Rule apply. You can take up to 25 additional Storm Boys at 9 points a model, and the knob can take a boss pole for 5 points, and the items from the melee weapons list. I mentioned back in part 1 of this series that I used to own the Metal Gazgol Thraka model. I used to also have some Storm Boys, and I loved them. I mean, they were ridiculously top heavy, meaning they were constantly falling over, meaning they were constantly coming to pieces, but I loved them all the same. They looked little different to the current models, as they had formal uniforms and a rule along the lines of when they used their jump packs on, you rolled a dice and on a 1 or a 6 or something, their pack would misfire and it would go the model would go shooting off the board. Good times. Nostalgia over, Storm Boys can be really useful. They're fast and they can hit hard. Being a jump troop, they can use their rocket packs for a charge instead of movement, and they get Hammer of Wrath, in addition to their normal normal 4 strength 4 attacks on the charge. As always, knobs should take a boss pole and a claw. Squad size, for most assault squad types, I tend to favour 10 or more, so they can lose some models on the way in and still be combat effective. In Storm Boy's case, I'd say 15 sounds a good number, as it won't get too expensive on points, and you don't want too many pie plates of doom falling on these guys, so a smaller blob on the table might appear less threatening. That said, while I've never done it, I really do love the idea of taking 3 squads of 30 Storm Boys. That kind of silliness just appeals to me. Storm Boys are particularly buffed when a Waaagh is called, allowing them running and charging in the same turn. You can jump 12 inches, then run 2d6, because as a special rule for rocket packs, you get to roll an extra dice when you run, even if you used the rocket pack in a movement phase. Then you can charge an additional 2d6 with 1 dice rerollable for Here We Go, and you have a potential 1 turn's movement threat bubble of 36 inches. Wolfen eat your heart out. With the inbuilt mobility of jump packs, Storm Boys can be taken alternatively in small units to be used as objective grabbing units. Their extended range of movement grants them the ability to get across the battlefield much better than foot-slogging boys, so can go grab that far left field objective point. However, bikes, which I will be coming to shortly, can also serve this role. Third on our roster for today's video, we have Deathcopters. Deathcopters buzz across the battlefield, weaving through the sky on a trail of foul-smelling smoke. As they swoop low over the heads of the enemy, the fiendish Ork flying machines fire punishing salvos of rockets, shot and bombs into their midst, leaving flames and blood-splattered craters in their wake. The Deathcopters jink erratically away, already hunting their next victims. Deathcopters are able to navigate over the roughest terrain in order to hunt down their foe. Many get blown out of the sky when first sighted, thanks to the overconfidence on the part of the warlike pilots, yet those orcs with the real knack for the job have the self-control to locate the enemy, then lead the rest of the boys down on top of them. These rare greenskins take pride in finding the best scraps for the rest of the tribe to get stuck into before diving in to join the fun. Deathcopters come in a base unit composition of 1 for 30 points, and you can take an additional 4 Deathcopters. They are unique in the Ork Codex as having the jet bike unit type, allowing them all the mobility of a bike, but without having to worry about pesky terrain. The stat line for a Deathcopter is Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 3, Toughness 5, 2 Wounds, 2 Initiative, 2 Attack, Leadership 7, and a 4 up Armor save. A Deathcopter comes equipped with a twin-linked big shooter and a chopper, and has the normal 3 Ork rules of Here We Go, Mob Rule, and Furious Charge, but also has Hit and Run and Scout. Any model in a squad of Deathcopters may exchange their big shooter for a twin-linked rocket launcher or a non-twin-linked custom Mega Blaster, which has range 24 inches, strength 8, AP2, assault 1, gets hot for free. In addition, any model may take a big bomb, which is strength 4, AP5, bomb 1 large blast, on use only, or a buzzsaw, which is strength times 2, AP2, melee unwieldy specialist weapon. Deathcopters don't seem to see a lot of use in the wider game, and I'm not sure why. I think they have a lot of potential to do good work. They're pretty tough, with toughness 5, 2 wounds and a 4-up armor save, and the ability to jink, and actually have a good chance of being able to shoot something with 2 of their weapon options being twin linked, and good weapon strengths, and they have the option of kill saws, giving them 3 strength 7 AP2 attacks each on the charge. It's not the most attacks we've seen in this book, but at AP2 they'll be cutting through most people, and it's going to cause instant death against squishier races. Add to this Scout, so they can either get the jump on laying down some Daka turn 1, and hit and run, meaning you can just keep getting those charges, getting out and getting those charge bonuses. I'm not really seeing a downside. If you can't stretch to knob bikers as a bodyguard for your war boss on a bike, these guys are an entirely viable alternative, as they come with 2 wounds per model. The only disadvantage I can see is that they can't take a knob, which means no boss pole, and unless you attach a character, they're going to be hit hard by mob rule. But if you keep that in mind, and give them an independent character with a boss pole, you're pretty much set. This next section may upset some people, as it is going to be one of those times I have to let my personal bias influence my reviewing. But I suppose that is why you're watching these videos, to get my opinion on the Codex rather than the simple answers to the Codex. What can I say? Oh flyers, why can't I love you? Orcs have 3 flavours of planes in the book, and I can't bring myself to bring any of them in anything but an Apocalypse level game, where I have the points to throw away. It's not to say that Orc flyers are bad, they do have merit, but everything I'm about to say about their flyers is theory only, and hasn't been tested extensively. As such, instead of 3 separate entries, I'm just going to roll all 3 planes into one segment. So, incoming 3 bits of fluff, followed by the gear of each plane and how I could foresee them being useful. I apologise to anyone who was hoping for something more. By all means, respond to this and convince me as to why flyers are good. Please, I actually really do want to be convinced. I openly admit my own bias, and as such lack of knowledge or experience with the unit type. I feel it would be disingenuous of me to claim otherwise, however. First up, the Daka Jet. Streaking into battle through war-scorched skies, a Daka Jet's massive thruster leaves an oily contrail of black smoke in its wake, even as its guns spit streams of bullets into their foes. Though it is not as nimble as the aircraft of some other races, Daka Jets are capable of an incredible turn of speed that makes them a fearsome enemy in aerial combat. It also helps that Orcs fly like complete head cases. Daka Jet pilots are great believers in quantity over quality. As such, they ensure the mechs strap on every gun available to the fuselages of their jet. In the heat of battle, while corkscrewing madly through formations of enemy aircraft, Daka Jet pilots cut loose an absurd storm of fire. Some have even been known to smash out the cockpit glass with the butts of their sluggers in order to add their own pistol fire to that of their plane. All of this makes Daka Jet pilots unusually effective shots. With so many bullets fired, some of them are bound to hit the target. Now let's find out about burner bombers. Burner bombers are the inevitable byproduct of the Orcs' love for speed, fire, and the desire to combine these things whilst killing something. Strapped with as many incendiary bombs and rockets as physically feasible, burner bombers streak low over the battlefield, raining conflagration death onto tightly packed infantry. The wide-eyed burner boy pilots of these craft like to watch their targets burn up close and crispy. As such, they regularly return to base with their undercarriage streaking with gore and scorch marks. Burner bombers sometimes carry Scorcher missiles, making them even more deadly. These corkscrewing missiles make a mockery of fortifications, their warheads bursting into conflagratory showers that drive their victims from cover, or else cook them alive within the defences, turned into death traps. And finally, we have a little fluff on the Blitzer bomber. Even on the best days, the average Ork flyboy has little patience for trajectories, payload arcs, and other boring bits of high-altitude bombing. Blitzer bombers instead ensure their massively unsubtle boom bombs land more or less on targets by simply dropping them from point-blank range. To pull this off, Blitzer bomber pilots throw their aircraft into screaming nosedives, their terrified Grot bombardiers pulling on the bomb release levers at the very last possible moment. After a loud clank and some alarming juddering, the bomber plunges groundwards and explodes, more or less on target, with a thunderous bang. With this payload away, the cackling flyboy hopefully pulls up. These manoeuvres don't always end well, and most grots have been forcibly nailed to the bombardier's nest in order to avoid them bailing out shortly before takeoff. All three plane variants have the profile of ballistic skill 2, front, side and rear armour of 10, and 3 hull points. The Dackerjet costs 110 points and comes equipped with 2 twin-linked super shooters, which are 36-inch range, strength 6, AP 4, assault 3, and has the rules of strafing run, supersonic, and Waaagh plane. Waaagh plane fires one more shot than normal from each of its assault profile weapons on any turn in which a Waaagh is in effect. Should you play the rules for the expansion, which I don't know of anyone who does, Death from the Skies, this denotes the Dackerjet as a fighter type with all the restrictions that apply to that. The Dackerjet may take a red paint job for 5 points, an additional twin-linked super shooter for 20 points, which given the Waaagh plane rule I would always do for this aircraft, and a flyboss for 15 points, which if you recall from part 1 of this series was an upgrade I was actually in favour of. A burner bomber costs 115 points and has a twin-linked big shooter, a twin-linked super shooter, and 2 burner bombs, which have the profile strength 5, AP 4, bomb 1, large blast, ignores cover, 1 use only. A burner bomber has supersonic, Waaagh plane and Grot gunner rules. The Grot gunner allows shots made with the big or super shooters to be made at ballistic skill 3, which is nice. A burner bomber is, unsurprisingly, a bomber flyer type for the purposes of Death from the Skies. Options-wise, a burner bomber can take a red paint job for 5 points, and up to 6 Scorcher missiles at 10 points each. A Scorcher missile is range 24 inches, strength 5, AP 4, heavy 1, blast, ignores cover, and 1 use only. Finally, a Blitzer bomber is the most expensive, at 135 points, and for that premium you get 1 big shooter, a twin-linked super shooter, and 2 boom bombs, which are strength 7, AP 2, bomb 1, armor bane, large blast, and 1 use only. They also have the Screamin' Descent rule. This rule states that you roll 2d6 when making your bombing run, after the template has been placed but before scatter, and consults the following results. Should you roll a 2, the result is faster. Waaagh! Uh-oh. The bomb is dropped, however the flyer making the attack is wrecked and suffers a crash and burn result. Should you roll a 3, it's clip 'em. The bomb is dropped, however both the flyer dropping the bomb and the target suffer a single strength 9 AP2 hit, with all hits on vehicles being made on side armour. Should you roll a 4 to 9, you get just like this. So, no abnormal effects, bombing run happens as normal as per the game rules. Should you roll 10 to 12, you get Daka Daka Boom. The bombing run happens as normal, however, in addition, the attacking flyer may shoot all of its assault profile weapons at the bomb target, with hits on vehicles being resolved against rear armour. Any unit that suffers an unsaved wound from these attacks must take a pinning test. These additional attacks are in addition to any shooting attacks. You may still fire your assault weapons as normal in the shooting phase and can target a different unit. The burner bomber has a Grot gunner, supersonic and warplane special rules, and for the purposes of death from the sky is a bomber. The plane may optionally take a red paint job for 5 points. So we have 3 armor value 10 all-round planes, all with the Waaagh rule, which could lead to some hilarity if you're fielding these and in a formation where you can call a Waaagh every turn. The Dakajet I could see being good against other flyers and flying monstrous creatures. It hasn't got super high strength shots, but with Fighter Ace and under the Waaagh it would be 12 strength 6 AP4 shots against a flying Hive Tyrant or a winged Demon Prince, all resolved at BS3 because of Flyboss. Against other flyers, this could struggle a little more, because unless you can get into position for rear armor shots, Marine airborne bricks with their stupidly high armor values means you'll only be glancing on a 6 if you were to be on the wrong facing, but other AV-10 planes would be more susceptible. Best case, if your opponent knows you're flying around up there with so much Daka, he may think twice about being in the same airspace as you. To reference Frit 40k, it's all about technology. Now what can I say about the burner bomber? It has the same bonuses as a warplane as the Dakajet, however under the Death from the Skies rules, different target priorities. Between the burner bomber and the Scorcher missiles, we have a good amount of ignores cover pie plates of doom. However, I think with Ork BS I would expect to see them more than ideal scatter. If you can get the shots to land where you want them, they could do some good work, but personally for this role I can't help but feel you'd be better off with normal burner boys. Less chance of scattering and it's not one-use attacks. Finally we have the Blitzer bomber. If we take my concerns about the scatter on bombs as a given, strength 7 AP2 could be quite nice. If you manage to land this where you want to, you could be wiping out whole squads of infantry at the time, even heavy infantry like Terminators or Wraithguard. Or if you land it on light to medium armor with Armor Bane, you could ruin someone's day. Add to this ignores cover, and you won't have any Tau or Eldar jinking their way clear of this. But the random nature of it concerns me. I have a documented history of abuse from the dice gods. As such, I can well see a situation of not only missing my target with my bomb, but then managing to wreck my own plane, and likely landing on my own Death Star to boot. You may laugh and discount this as pessimism on my part, but similar has happened. In summary, I can see the merit in all these planes on paper, but the reality of how planes perform on the tabletop tempers my enthusiasm. So many of the situations to make these planes good would involve them being in the right place at the right time and facing the right way. Planes are just too unreliable for that in my opinion. I would rather rely on something that is on the board earning its points all the time. But please, as I said earlier, I'm open to be convinced otherwise. For me, at the time of making this review, these 3 planes are a pass. Next up, we have Warbikers. Mobs of Ork Warbikers race into battle at suicidal speeds, exhaust belching greasy clouds of smoke. As they hurtle towards their enemy ranks, the Warbikers fill the air with a murderous storm of shouts from their blazing Daka guns. Surrounded by billowing clouds of smoke and dust, the Warbikers are protected from the worst of the enemy's return fire. By the time the Biker Boys thunder out of this swirling cloud, they are all but on top of their foes, wide-eyed and panting behind goggles and dust masks. Most Warbikers' need for speed is such that they can barely stand still for 5 minutes. The more canny Warbosses use this to their advantage, sending their Warbikers to trigger traps and ambushes prematurely, to run down enemy supply convoys, and to soften up foes' defences before the rest of the tribe gives them a good stomping. For 54 points you can get 3 Warbikes, of which one may be upgraded to a knob for the usual 10 points, unlocking melee weapons and a boss pole for 5 points. The profile of Warbikers is greater than that of a normal boy or knob due to being on a bike. Their stat line reads: a Warbiker has Weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 3, toughness 5, 1 wound, 2 initiative, 2 attacks, leadership 7, and a 4-up save. A knob is weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 3, toughness 5, 2 wounds, 2 initiative, 2 attacks, leadership 7, and a 4-up save again. As normal, they have Here We Go, Furious Charge, and Mob Rule, and the knob is counted as a character for the purposes of challenges and stuff. You may expand the number of models in the squad to a maximum of 12 for 18 points per model. Models come equipped with a slugger, chopper, and a warbike. The warbike granting them a twin-linked Daka gun, which is 18-inch range, strength 5, AP 5, assault 3. In a previous addition to this codex, Ork bikes used to be able to be taken as troop choices if your HQ was a mech. Such Force Ork shenanigans were phased out in 7th edition, which also saw the end to the Speed Freak list. It is still possible to play a mechanized army, you just have to take 2 troop choices as well. As for bikes in this edition, like their knob variants discussed in the Elite section, they are considerably more survivable than the average boy due to the built-in armor save, the toughness boost, and jinking. However, they are 3 times more expensive in points than a basic boy. As with every squad I've discussed before, take a knob and give him a boss pole. Unfortunately, bikers, like every squad that starts with a lower number, will suffer to mob rule. While bikers can actually be taken in up to 12, mitigating mob rule's impacts, doing so will be prohibitive in points and impractical on the table. I found playing Ravenwing and Eldar jet bikes that 6 tends to be a good number for bikes as a combat unit. It's enough so your board footprint isn't too large and allows you, even with orc shooting, enough firepower to make a difference, or hits in melee to kill what you're going to be charging with bikes, which isn't going to be blobs. You don't want to be bogged down. Other utilizations for biker mob squads is going light on investment and using them solely as objective grabbers. I don't do this too much as I like my units to serve more than one role, but if it's all your points will allow, it can be the answer to the problem of capping points in a foot-slogging army. Finally, in this section we have war buggies. Orcs tend towards light, fast vehicles with big guns that can be cobbled together from any junk to hand. Most are crewed by mad-eyed orc drivers and a cackling gunner, with perhaps a grot or 2 hanging on for dear life. What they lack in survivability, these crude vehicles make up for in speed, numbers, and Daka. They encircle the enemy in speeding squadrons, guns blazing wildly, while their crew throw their heads back and howl like mad boys. Most consist of little more than a chassis, engine, gubbins, and a sizable gun. For traversing dense terrain, some war buggies will be converted into the half-track war tracks, while the addition of a jutting flamethrower, some sloshing fuel tanks, and a crew of slathering burner boys transforms a war buggy into the much-feared Scorcher. I'm going to talk about all 3 variants of war buggy in this one section, as they all serve the same purpose, have the same profile, and simply you just upgrade one to the other and you get different rules and different weapons. So we have the following profiles, and they all count as fast open-top vehicles that have the outflank special rule. Ballistic skill 2, front, side and rear armor of 10 and 2 hull points. For 25 points you can have one war buggy, which comes equipped with a twin-linked big shooter, which is 36-inch range, strength 5, AP 5, assault 3. You may increase the squad size by an additional 4 buggies at 25 points a model. Any buggy may upgrade to a war track for 5 points, and either a buggy or a war track may exchange their big shooter for a twin-linked rocket launcher for free. Instead of a war track, you can upgrade your buggy to a Scorcher for 10 points per model. You will then swap your big shooter for a Scorcher. Both the war track and the Scorcher have the tracks rule, which allows rerolls of failed dangerous terrain tests. Any model can take a red paint job for 5 points, extra armor for 10 points, or grot triggers for 10 points, but I suggest you don't take any upgrades for any variation of War Buggy. These 3 listings all serve the same role when I take them, and that function in my army is shared by commandos and deathcopters, and that is outflanking harassment. Whichever variants you choose, I use them to come on board at an inconvenient place and lay down some twin-linked Dakka. Just as when I've spoken about this tactic before, the threats can often actually outweigh the efficacy of the attacks, but I know a guard player who can get very tetchy towards strength 8 shots appearing on the rear armor of his tanks, or flamers barbecuing his HQ squads. The question is, for the points, do other codex entries perform the role of these 3 units better? In honesty, I would say yes. For me, being 10 all-round vehicles is what hurts them. However, for example, if you couldn't use commandos in your list because you were full of elites, because you had too many burner boys, and why wouldn't you, flamers for everyone, you can still utilize the harassment tactic. And hey, if you're against a strength 3 army, such as that guard army I mentioned, these could be invulnerable. When I do field some or all of the variations of these 3, which I have, I found squads of 2 to be the sweet spot. I encourage you to experiment and try for yourself, but to me, 2 is enough, as it's not a massive point sink and it's just enough to do a good amount of Dakka or be a credible threat for harassment purposes. Well, that'll be done for now. I appreciate your taking the time to listen to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed the content and welcome your constructive feedback and discussion in the comments below. If you like this video, hit like. If you like my content, hit subscribe. Both help me in knowing what is working. I have been Steve, this has been the SDFnet 40k channel, and I will see you next time. The Emperor protects.